New York public works supervisor shouts white power at a black worker. Put him up. What the hell are these people thinking? A white supervisor in New York reportedly shouted white power as workers raised fists when a black employee walked into Long Island Public Works. Julio Germain, 40 years of age, began working for the County Public Works Department as an auto equipment operator in the Highway Division in November of 2019. He is a Black and Latino man. He says he endured multiple years of racial insults and racial slurs from coworkers at the county department in Suffolk. This is Long Island, New York. He says he was physically assaulted by a supervisor. That's called a crime, by the way. And repeatedly turned down for promotions. He is now suing the county for racial discrimination. By early 2022, remember he was hired in 2019, his work environment had become hostile and abusive. The complaint alleges on January 3rd of that year, his supervisor, Doug Butterhagen, who is white, told Mr. Germain that his new assignment was picking up garbage along roadways. The supervisor then approached Germain from behind and hit him on the back of the head with a closed fist, knocking his head down, the lawsuit says. Germain, feeling scared and threatened, did in fact file a police report of the incident. Another white supervisor named Dan Kofi, allegedly had a habit of making racist comments to his work crew, including yelling out, quote, white power, end quote, whenever he would see the Black and Latino man named Germain, which would usually be followed by other white employees raising their fist to salute him. Now I have more, but understand the context. If black people are raising their fist, it is in solidarity to a movement of inclusion. It is not to be critical, to name call, or disparage white people or anyone who is non-black. So the bigots decided to co-opt that, make it into something, well, bigoted, because that's what bigots do. There's more. March 2022. Dan Kofi came into a break room full of workers at the end of a workday in and repeatedly played a notorious episode of South Park wherein multiple characters use the N-word, which a dozen white workers in the room found amusing, erupting in laughter, the complaint says, but which Mr. Germain and another black employee, Frank Pata, they found it, in fact, to be offensive, but remained silent. While the South Park video was playing or being played, a white foreman, this is a supervisor on the ground, a white foreman, Mark Tucker, gleefully repeated the racist phrase, crust as N-words, the lawsuit states. There's a lot more to the story. This is a human resources nightmare. You have multiple witnesses, you have inappropriate conduct, you have racial slurs, that is your emotional distress. You have racial discrimination, which is an issue of promotion and workforce evaluation, et cetera. You have almost every element of the racial discrimination gumbo here. All of it, even physical assault. There's more. The lawsuit, another time in the break room, a coworker, Germain, a coworker told Mr. Germain, quote, if you are an illegal, you should get a bullet in your head. Now you got terroristic threats added to the docket. In the presence of two supervisors, this was said. Those two supervisors decided to laugh with the other workers, Germain claims. The lawsuit says making racist remarks in front of the boss seemed to lead to career advancement for some workers. After Brandon Buschetti, who is white, called Germain another racial slur outside the foreman and supervisor's offices, he started getting better work details, the complaint contends. After Germain attended a party at a foreman, Tommy Cohen's house in August of 2022, he says Coffee walked up to him, Cohen and Tucker, and shouted, quote, how did you let this N-word into this party and not me? And what's up, Julio? I heard you ate all the watermelon at the party. End quote. Mr. Germain made multiple complaints about the physical abuse. He made complaints about racial humiliation, comments to his supervisors, including the County Public Works Department Director, James Agressi. The complaint states, but no remedial measures were ever taken. Instead, he was, quote, constantly ostracized and isolated by SCDPW supervisors and fellow employees, the lawsuit states. Meanwhile, Mr. Germain says he applied for multiple promotions and was repeatedly passed over, only to see less qualified white employees hired for those positions. Fed up with the disparate and discriminatory treatment, in December 2023, Germain filed a complaint with the New York State Division of Human Rights, which by July 2023 did in fact find probable cause exist that the county had in fact engaged in the unlawful discriminatory practices he had complained about. This is akin to when an individual seeks a determination from the Equal Opportunity Employment Agency. This is an agency that tells any private attorney who would like to take this case, you got a case here. Because the statutory elements have been satisfied based on the information provided to that particular agency. Likely because Mr. Germain had the good sense and the courage to document what was happening to him since 2022. There's more. He was twice denied for promotions to open tanker positions in 2023 and 2024. The first time the job was given to a white employee who was on probation, which should have disqualified that employee per county policy, he says. The second time, a white male who had worked as an auto equipment operator for only 1 year was selected over Mr. Germain, who had 4 years of experience in the position at that point in time. Let's put him up full mass. So Mr. Germain told PIX11 in 2023 that he has a learning disability and his coworkers began to use it against him. Quote, they used it against me, called me stupid, called me another term that is offensive along with relentless racial slurs. He gets this treatment on a regular basis, according to the complaint. Germain seeks a jury trial to determine damages for emotional distress, pain, and suffering, front and back pay, and other financial losses, as well as punitive damages and legal costs. Mr. Germain also wants the county to issue him a written apology. I believe Mr. Germain is going to get everything he is requesting and some. They assumed, likely, I'm talking about the bigots that were adversarial to Mr. Germain, that he lacked the intelligence or the mental fortitude in order to raise an issue, not realizing that Mr. Germain was much smarter than they ever thought, smarter than them, and has been documenting their racism as agents of the county since 2022, which means when the first racial or racist incident happened, whatever year that may have been, and there is appropriate documentation of such, and you see years of a pattern, but from that first one, no remedial action happened. You have negligent retention all day long on behalf of the government that he works for. That's just starting how this lawsuit is going to end. All right, Yasmin, it doesn't pay to be racist because now the good taxpayers of their local jurisdiction, they're going to have to pay for the insane culture of racism that has been alleged in this lawsuit.
Yeah, I have to say, like, this whole story, it just made me think of Joe Bluth on Arrested Development when he gets shanked in prison by White Power Bill, and they're chanting white power. And as he's falling to the ground, he's like, but I'm white. So anyone shouting white power, though, is kind of an idiot, right? They're led by fear and they get all of their self worth from something they had no control over in their own lives. They don't celebrate their own accomplishments or their intellectual curiosity or their upstanding character, their whiteness is what they celebrate. And that is something they had zero control over. And it is very, very weak. And even in that South Park clip that they were laughing at and using as an excuse to celebrate their racism, they're so dumb that they don't get that they're the ones being made fun of on a show like that, right? South Park has never celebrated the racist person. It's like when Republicans never noticed that Rage Against the Machine was woke as hell until Tom Morello actively started speaking out against the Trump administration. Or like on the show The Boys, when they didn't realize that Homelander was the bad guy all along. Like, it wasn't subtle. I don't think they were trying to be subtle about that, but they just miss things because they're dumb and they're blinded by this reality that they already have in their heads. They believe that they understand how the world works, and that is a lens with which they see and view everything, and they miss a lot of things. Beyond all of that, though, these are people's livelihoods that we're dealing with here. This is not an economy where people can afford to not have a job. I'm not going to judge anyone for staying in a job that is hostile to them because people can't afford to lose their job. Have you tried to find a job out there lately? It is incredibly difficult, if not impossible. People are getting laid off across the country from various positions, whether AI is coming for you, whether Doge is coming for you, whether you're worried about your immigration status or whatever. It is rough out there and people need these jobs. But this is just carryover behavior that goes all the way back to slavery and to the immediate aftermath of the slaves when they were freed. It's preventing someone from advancing because of racism. And again, if you get your entire self-worth from advancing in society, but not because of your own accomplishments, but because you have to actively and deliberately block others from even competing against you, that is embarrassing for you. That is nothing for you to celebrate. These people are so worried about DEI hires taking their jobs, but this is exactly why DEI hiring practices were adopted in this country in the first place. Either way, it's like they're afraid of their whiteness being threatened and they can't deal with that. So they just block, 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 block. They can't handle any kind of healthy competition because they know that in a lot of those cases, they're going to lose that fight.
That's right. And I am looking forward to bringing you the update to this particular story.